Hello, everyone. This is Chase Harrison, CEO of Alta Labs, and I'd like to welcome my co-host, Jeff Hansen, our CTO of Alta Labs. Thanks for being here, Jeff. I'd like to say thank you to everybody for joining us for our 7th Alta Labs live event. We do hold these once a month, every month. And if you're joining us from any platform, anywhere in the world, you're able to submit question and answer for a live question and answer session here at the very end of this Alta Labs live event. We will take all those questions, and in the event that we miss one, or in the event that you are not able to be a part of this today, this live stream event, we do record this. So you're able to pick it up and listen in whenever it's convenient for you. And then you can still send questions to our sales team at via email, sales@alta.inc, so you can get your questions answered, or you're always welcome to come engage with us in our community forum, forum.alta.inc. But again, we appreciate you being here today, and we have some exciting news, new features in Route 10, as well as a brand new product that we're rolling out effective today called AltaBoost. But before we get into those fun little items, I wanted to go ahead and share a couple of announcements with our community. First and foremost, I'd like to congratulate Matt Conger. He was the winner of our March Build a Bracket competition that surrounded the college basketball tournament that happened there in March. And we appreciate Matt, as well as all of you coming and joining us and engaging with us and having a fun little competition. So Matt, I know our team has already been in touch with you on getting that gear sent your direction. So congratulations. Also, our installer of the month. We announced this the last couple of live stream events. We want to go ahead and do that again now. First of all, congratulations on to All Things Tech out of Canada. That was announced after our live stream event last month, excuse me. That they are our March installer of the month. And for April, we actually have gone ahead and announced that as well. We announced that a little earlier this week. That is our very own WireTech AV here in our backyard, St. George, Utah. Congratulations to both All Things Tech as well as WireTech AV. For those of you wondering how to be eligible for the installer of the month, that's basically up to an internal panel of Alta Labs team members to review and decide if you are eligible. Essentially, what things we're looking for is, number one, we see through our sell-through reports that you are actively selling and installing Alta Labs products. We'd love to see you active in our community, at the very least on our social media platforms, sharing your projects, telling us about where you're installing Alta Labs products, and then being active and just providing feedback on the products as well. So we've already got a number of really good candidates for May, June, and July. And we are anxiously waiting to go ahead and announce those here in the very near future. So next up, we actually, and I'm going to ask Rob, who's behind the scenes, our VP of Marketing, to go ahead and post this as well, a link on our website. If you happen to be in Nashville, Tennessee, April 23rd, we are going to be at Tech Fest, where you'll be able to come take a look at actually a real live working Alta Labs ecosystem. You can come work with our new. Some of our new products, our on-wall access point will be there. You'll be able to work in our user interface and work with our sales team there. Later in April, actually, our very own Jeff Hansen, our CTO, will be speaking at the Wi-Fi Now conference, April 28th in Mountain View, California. If you happen to be in California and have interest in attending that show, we'd love to have you there and come engage with Jeff and other members of our team that will be supporting that event. Also, if you are in India or plan on being in India around May 8th, we have the Smart Home Expo that we will be attending, and we'll actually have a booth there as well. And then finally, at the end of May, May 27th, I personally will actually be at Communicasia in Singapore. And again, we'll have every chance we get, we'll make sure we'll have our latest and greatest products there, on-wall access point for sure. And all those events, we'll try and get the 48-port switch out to some of those as well. But we'd love to have you come talk to us and get a feel for Alta Labs if you haven't done so already. Finally, before we turn the time over to Jeff, one thing I wanted to touch on is our product and firmware documentation. It's something that's come up in not only our own forum, but as well as the Reddit community and others, where there's been some pretty strong encouragement for us to do better, I guess, or get documentation out faster as we roll out new firmware releases and new features for the ecosystem. We are about ready to publish kind of an external SOP, right? A standard operating procedure that will be something that you can count on us living diagonally forward as far as our cadence for not only delivering firmware and feature releases, but then the subsequent documentation that will support that. So that will be coming. We'll post it on our community. We'll post it on our website. We'll post it on Reddit. But we know that's something that's been highly sought after amongst our community base, and we've heard you, and that is something we will get working on right away. So anyways, that's it for announcements. That was a lot of announcements. I know that it's never fun to get through all those, but thank you for bearing with us. And now we'd like to talk to you about what's new with Route 10. So we're going to go ahead and turn the time over to Jeff. Jeff, you want to take it away for us?
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you, Chase. And yeah, excited to meet everybody out there at Wi-Fi Now in a couple of weeks. Yeah, excited to interact with users. And I love working with everybody that uses our gear, helping make their IT lives easier. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. We're going to talk about some new Route 10 features that came out. Let's see. So can we get my screen up there? There we go. All right. Okay. So first feature is Cake. Obviously, we talked about it quite a bit at our last call. And yeah, we launched it the day after we had our last call. So I just wanted to quickly review how to do that again. So you can get to your WAN settings either through your router. You go to your WAN port, and you can edit your WAN here. So that's one way to get to your WAN settings. And this will work for both this and the next feature that we're going to talk about. You can also get to your WAN settings by going to Settings, Networks, WANs, and then you click on the, let's see, you can see which ones are active over here. You just click on it here and it brings up your WAN settings. So to enable Cake, which is our rate limiting, and Cake is really awesome because it helps shape all the traffic that goes through your connection. A lot of times, if you have a spotty connection or when somebody uploads a big file or you start gaming and things just aren't working, a lot of times it has to do with the traffic shaping that's going through your ISP. And that ISP is a lot of times the bottleneck, right? And so if you can optimize your bandwidth so that it goes through at a specified rate, all you have to do is come in here and put in your numbers. Now, we do recommend going about 10 to 20% lower than your contracted rate from your ISP for the download limit, and about 5 to 10% from your contracted rate for the upload limit. And with that, you should be able to do, anybody on your network can do uploads, downloads, whatever they want, and you'll still have, sub 100 millisecond, sub 50 millisecond latency. If you tune it just right, you can always have, sub 50 millisecond latency that you need for a lot of applications. So yeah, this is super easy to set up. It also paves the way. We plan on adding more features to Cake, such as DSCP mapping and things like that allow you to prioritize certain pieces of traffic. And honestly, like Cake by itself works generally well for every application. But if there are cases where you want to prioritize certain DSCP packets, we're also adding that as part of functionality inside of Cake. So that's here. The next feature we're really excited about is our DDNS clients support for Route 10. So DDNS clients allows you to, let's say you have a dynamic IP address, from your ISP, and it changes periodically. Most ISPs try to keep them the same, but let's say your internet goes out for a little while, or for whatever reason your router, your modem reboots, and you get a new IP address. Well, DDNS allows you to map a host name to that updated IP address, whatever you're coming out of on your ISP connection. So we have a feature called Dynamic DNS. We've had Alta's internal DDNS, which works out of the gates. You don't have to do anything to set that up, but this is for third-party DDNS clients. So it's really easy to use. You do have to come in here and add a DDNS client, and this is per WAN. So as your WAN connection is activated and set up, it gets DHCP, things start flowing. It'll then reach out to your DDNS provider with the credentials that you provide here and update your DDNS IP address hostname. We do have documentation on this already posted. So if you just head over to help.alta.inc and search for DDNS, this dynamic DNS article comes right up. And it kind of explains, how to use it, how to get to WAN, how to add a DDNS provider. And then we've gone through the painstaking labor of going through all the DDNS providers, making sure that they all work first off, and then a lot of them have like little quirks here and there, right? So like sometimes you have to use the host name for the username, or you have to use magic keywords like bearer for the username, and then grab an API key. So there are, all of them is quite different in how they operate and what they require, but we tried to make kind of a reference guide for what you would need to enter to use these different providers. So yeah, that's the documentation on the DDNS client. A couple cool features that I want to point out that are on our Route 10 is the ability to, so normally when you register a DDNS client, it'll register the WAN IP address that you get, whether that's through static IP assignment or through DHCP. It'll register that address that's on the WAN interface. Now, in some cases where you have like a CGNet network, or a case where your Route 10 maybe is, it can't get a public IP address that's routable publicly on the internet, you may want to use a different IP address, and that is your public WAN IP. So in order to use that, all you have to do is in the DDNS client configuration, you enable this public WAN IP checkbox. And so what that will do is when it registers the new IP address, it'll reach out to the internet and say, what's my publicly routable IP address first? And it'll use that IP address instead of the WAN interface IP address. We also have support for IPv6. Now, not all DDNS clients or providers support IPv6, but for the ones that do, it is available and an option. So if you want to register an IPv6 host name with an IPv6 address, all you have to do is check that box, and then you can use IPv6 with DDNS. So really cool. The next thing that I want to go over is our added support for IPSec client. So to set this up, you need to go to the Route 10 itself. This is a configuration that runs on the Route 10. So the Route 10 has this VPN tab. You come in here and we have the ability, last month we covered WireGuard site-to-site and client setup. This month we're going to cover IPSec. So you create an IPSec S2S or client connection. We'll call it IPSec. You give it a name. You can turn it on or off on demand. So you put in the host name, so the IP address or the host name that you want to use for the other side. And then there's actually the ability to do, so a lot of site-to-site VPNs will use a PSK, right? And you just, copy and paste that in. Obviously, you have to make sure that it's correct. We do support, strange characters like spaces and backslashes and things like that. It's all been vetted and tested. So that will allow you to create a site-to-site VPN between two IPSec servers. So, that could be another Route 10. It could be another vendor's site-to-site IPSec server or S2S client. We also have the ability with Route 10, which is really cool. If you have a mobile configuration, let's say you log into an IPSec server using, IKE v2 and using a username and password, you can actually have your Route 10 log in as that username and password to that server, which is a really unique feature. So yeah, either way, whether you use site-to-site pre-shared key or use my mobile IKE username and password, you set that up and then you set up your remote subnets. So this is very similar to the allowed IPs on WireGuard. It just specifies the subnets that you want to route over this connection. So you would put the subnets that are on the remote side of this connection. And then, it's IPSec and it's standard. We're trying to be compatible with everything. So there's a million options under here. We do have, let's go through. So you can actually masquerade the connection. So if you want to just forward traffic between two VLANs raw and not masquerade at the Route 10, you can do that. Or you can masquerade. So masquerading is typically for if you want to send all of your data for a specific connection over that, and then it changes the IP address to match the VPN client before it sends it over the tunnel. So if you're using a VPN service, that would typically be used in that case. You can choose the IKE version. You can set up the local and remote IDs, set up the MTU. So those are pretty straightforward. The IKE cipher, we actually have the ability to do, for example, some newer ciphers. So like Cha-Cha 20 Poly 1305, which is the same crypto that WireGuard uses. that allows it to get, 800, 900 megabits a second, non-hardware accelerated, you can get those faster speeds as long as your remote connection also supports that. We are also looking into hardware acceleration on the traditional ciphers as well. But if you want a quick, easy way to speed up your VPN over IPSec, you can use these newer ciphers, and it'll just boost it that much more. Let's see, a lot of other options here. So the ciphers for the IKE negotiation, the ESP negotiation. You can specify the remote TS or not. That's kind of a cool, unique feature where sometimes you don't require to have the remote TS specified. Sometimes you do. So it just kind of depends on the remote side. So that's about it for the IPSec client. So really versatile. There's a lot of options, but it's configurable and compatible with most other providers. Anytime you want to use an IPSec VPN provider or WireGuard provider, really easy to set that all up. Okay, and then the last feature I want to talk about is the prefix of, let's see, so Alta DNS. You get this out of the box, a free DNS host name, right? And so if you use a Route 10, it'll automatically register that with Alta, and you can always use that to get to your public IP address on your Route 10. One cool thing that we added was the ability to index that. So by default, it will, if you have multiple WANs, it will round robin DNS resolve that host name. So it'll actually return all of the IP addresses on all of your WANs for that host name, right? But there are cases where maybe you want to focus on or use, a specific WAN interface for some application, whether, maybe your backup internet connection isn't as fast as your main one. Great example. So what you can do is you just add a 1 dot to this, and it will turn that WAN 1 interface. It'll always return the IP address of the WAN 1 interface. Or you can add a 2 dot as a prefix to this DNS hostname, and then it will always return the second WAN interface. So yeah, I mean, fairly minor thing, but really cool feature if used properly. So yeah, that's it for our Route 10 features. We're really excited and have a lot more features still coming for Route 10. We're working on DPI. That's definitely coming soon. And as well as our new products. So like the AP6W, our 48-port switch and 12-port switch. A lot of stuff still in the pipeline that's coming very soon.
Wonderful. Thanks, Jeff. Before we jump to AltaBoost, I want to just friendly reminder, anybody who has any questions that they'd like to get answered here at the end of our live stream event, they will be answered live right between Jeff and myself. Go ahead and submit those in any of the platforms that you're on, whether it's YouTube or Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn. Those get fed into our StreamYard platform here, and we'll get to those here shortly. But we want to go ahead and introduce AltaBoost. Jeff, you want to?
Sure, yeah.
Force again.
Yeah, I'm going to share my screen again. Let's see. Okay, there it is. All right, so AltaBoost. We're really excited about this. We've formed a partnership with Wi-Fi Wireless to provide absolutely free carrier offloading for everybody using Alta Labs access points. And so it works with nearly all the US carriers, also some international partners, but it's really easy to set up. And what we've found in the past is that, a lot of people have a hard time using Passpoint or activating it because there's a lot of copying pasting that goes wrong. There's a lot, there's certificates. It's kind of complicated to get working right. And so there's a barrier of entry to be able to use it and then test it. And then also, even if you do activate it, it's like, it doesn't always work when you test it. So we wanted to provide something that always works right off the bat. It's free. And yeah, so it's called AltaBoost. And so the way that you enable it is you go into your manage.alta.inc, go to settings, and then you go to Wi-Fi. And we've had a partnership with XNet. This is another way to set up Passpoint, and you can ask our sales and ask us about XNet as well. XNet is a way that you get paid offload. AltaBoost is free, and so yeah, I'm sure we'll get questions about why you choose one over the other, and we'll definitely get into that right now. But if you want to do AltaBoost free, you just click Passpoint, click Add AltaBoost. You can leave the network name as AltaBoost. You can change it if you like. Really not a big problem either way. What it does is it automatically sets up the settings for secure. So because this is like allowing random people potentially on your network, you want this to be secure, right? And so what it does is it sets up that internet-only filter for these clients that are connecting to your AltaBoost network, so that they are isolated from the rest of your devices on your network. Yeah, it enables fast roaming by default, enables internet only, and yeah, that's all part of our AltaPass technology as well. And it also sets up the NAS ID automatically for you. So pretty much all of the hurdles that most people run into with setting up Passpoint are taken away, and all you have to do is hit save. We already have it activated on this site, so we don't need to hit save, but that's about it. Yeah, and so this allows you to, once you do this, I mean, I did this at my house the other day, and all of a sudden saw like, 2 or 3 people automatically come online. If you do it in larger venues, we have the Be More complex that we've enabled it on. Right after turning it on, is like immediately 10 to 20 people were joining. So really cool technology, and I'm sure we'll have a lot of questions about it, which we'll go over. But yeah, this is AltaBoost.
Yeah, we're really excited about it. I mean, I know I personally, right, in my installation days, had countless projects, both residential and commercial, right, where it wasn't always easy to enhance coverage inside of a project. And with paid carrier offload with XNet, in order to be eligible for paid offload, that there's some specific requirements set forth by the carriers, right, before they'll start paying you by the gigabyte. And so those are going to be more, bars, restaurants, larger venues. But anything hospitality-wise, or residential MDUs, condos, they generally shy away from. They don't want you to offload in any way, shape, or form. And so that's why, working in conjunction with the Wi-Fi team, we came up with AltaBoost, so that you could go in and offer that as an upsell right to the Alta Labs ecosystem, something that doesn't exist with any other manufacturer. And by simply enabling that, configuring it, as Jeff just said, you can now enhance the coverage in any project. It can be a condo, it can be an apartment, it could be a house, it could be a cabin in the woods. As long as you've got a good internet connection and Alta Labs access points, turn on AltaBoost. And again, to Jeff's point, right, pretty much any wireless carrier. There's two of the big ones, and we can't really name names. You can talk to our sales team, but essentially we're still working on the relationships with those last 2 big providers. But one of the 3 is online, and I think actually Russ mentioned that we could say that. So AT&T for sure is a go. I know we're working. I think Helium Mobile's tucked into the mix too. Pretty much any MVNO, right? So if you're buying your cell phone through like a Comcast or a Charter or whatever else, that's good to go. And then the other providers we're still working on, right? We're trying to get those out ASAP. So what we recommend, right, is if you have a concern or a question about that, email sales@alta.inc, and we can help clarify who those partners are. Also on the international side, there are a number of international providers that have already lined up. I believe Telefonica is in that mix, along with some others. But again, for a most up-to-date list, email sales@alta.inc. And again, you can go ahead and just enable it too, right? In your project, as Jeff said, it takes 10 seconds. It's online, and your cell phones are already ready to go. We've worked closely with Wi-Fi so that you can now, basically, it's pushed out to all the supporting carriers now. So you can play with it this afternoon if you'd like.
Another cool thing, real quick, is that it also supports open roaming profiles. So a lot of applications, mobile apps will install some sort of an open roaming profile. So that's really exciting as well. If you have one of those apps or one of those profiles installed, you can also get online really easily.
Perfect. Yeah, and the providers that are not supported yet are Verizon and T-Mobile, but that's something that we are in the process of finalizing, hopefully this year. I think we'll see one of those happen pretty quick. But again, join our community. Make sure you're subscribed to our newsletter. Email sales@alta.inc after we'll obviously answer any questions that come in via live Q&A. But we're really excited about this, and it's a feature that is available right now. So.
Yeah, and as Chase mentioned before, I mean, this does open opportunities with our Wi-Fi wireless partnership to get to a paid site where you get paid in US dollars. And so if your site is a good candidate, if it can offload a lot of traffic, if it's those gyms, stadiums, restaurants, things like that, if it is a good candidate, you can enable Wi-Fi wireless on that in addition to AltaBoost. And then actually we do support T-Mobile offload on those paid sites as well.
That's right. Wonderful. All right. So we will jump over to the live question and answer section now. Again, if you are, depending on where you're joining us, it doesn't matter. Drop the questions in the YouTube comments, Facebook comments, LinkedIn. That'll aggregate right into StreamYard. We'll get those questions answered. If for whatever reason we miss your question, don't hesitate to shoot us an email, sales@alta.inc, and we'll get those questions answered. So I'm going to scroll all the way to the top of all of our questions here. First one comes from VJ. Can we please see a Wi-Fi 7 access point with 4x4 on 6 gigahertz, please?
Yeah, so I mean, that's not currently slated in our current, planned Wi-Fi 7 access point. It's going to be 2x2 on the 6 gigahertz, but definitely something to look forward to in the future. And I mean, you will see, about a 30% difference. It might be a little more, a little less, depending on 6 gigahertz because it is higher frequency. But yeah, that's definitely something for the future. But we're at least going to get 6 gigahertz on 2x2 in the near future.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeff. Let's see. It's more of a, I guess we've already kind of touched on this, but any Wi-Fi 7 products, you want to use the opportunity, Jeff, maybe to just plug the Wi-Fi 7 access point that'll be out in Q3.
Yeah, so our Wi-Fi 7 access point is 2x2 on the 2 gig and 6 gig and 4x4 on the 5 gig. One really cool feature about this is it uses a new Qualcomm PHY on the Ethernet that allows us to get 10 gigabit PHY speeds. So that's a huge advantage there. But it also uses very low power. So you can get similar power consumption to what you'd see like on 2.5 gig, but with the faster speeds. So we're really excited about that. And that's, still slated for around Q3.
Perfect. Thanks, Jeff. I can take this one. Luke, I know you're very, very excited about our new rack mount accessory for Route 10 control and the S8 PoE. And thank you for also being a very active member in our community, checking in on that product. We are currently on schedule. Jeff and I are waiting for what we'd call essentially an off-tool sample, right? Where that'll come in and basically where we've tooled the injection molded pieces, the paint sample comes in, and as long as we're good, we kick off mass production. And because it's a pretty simple product, there's no electronics built into that. Mass production generally will happen pretty quick. So I know, Luke, you've got a project coming up in July. We should be able to get one of those for you, no problem. So I'm excited about it too. My rack's messy in my house. It drives me crazy, and I'm waiting for that so I get it nice and not dressed out really pretty. So you're amongst friends, Luke. Let's see, VJ, we already provided updates on Wi-Fi 7, so I'm going to keep moving along here. This comes up a lot, VJ. I think it'd probably be good to touch on, Jeff, for the community. Would love to see Alta Labs cables and SPF Plus as well.
Yeah, we have looked into that with various vendors to provide our own branded Alta Labs SFP cables and DACs and transceivers. Haven't made anything final yet though, but we're definitely testing them, and we don't want to go with somebody. We've had some issues, and we want to make sure that when we roll it out, that it's something that lasts for a long time, durable, fast, and doesn't just die randomly. It's something that's very frustrating, and we don't want to have any quality issues. So we're just still vetting, making sure that we do it right when we do it.
That's right. Yep. It's interesting to see what we've seen so far. So we definitely don't want to have any of our consumers, right, our fans, be our beta testers on hardware. So we're doing that ourselves. Lots of good feedback on Route 10. Thanks, Jorgen. Thanks, Craig Spears, coming out of New Zealand. Thank you very much. Here is a question. Looks like this is probably from Vietnam. I would love to try and pronounce that, but I'm not going to. I'm sorry, I'd probably offend somebody, but thank you for being here. And the question is, when will you release the 16-port PoE and 24-port PoE, 16-port non-PoE, 24-port non-PoE switch products. So I'm thinking the first two questions you were asking for a full PoE. Right now, the 16 and 24 port are live. They are available through all of our distributors globally. If you're in Vietnam, that's going to be Vintech. The 16 port PoE switch is not full PoE. It's only 8 ports of PoE plus, and the 24 port PoE switch is 16 ports of PoE plus. But if you're looking for all 24 and all 16 ports to be PoE plus enabled, that is something we're looking at potentially for our next round of switch products as we head into 2026. And honestly, Jeff and I haven't really talked about any fully non-PoE switch products. Anything you want to add there, Jeff?
Yeah, we haven't talked about that yet, but I mean, you do get a good balance with what we offer right now with the S16. You know, half of them are PoE plus, but there's also a no fan, right? And so that's for a lot of use cases that makes sense.
Agreed. Yeah, thank you for being here. And thanks for the question. Thanks, Jeff. Next question back from Luke Fong. When can we start remotely managing on-prem control from cloud platform, just like Unify?
Yeah, so I mean, this is we obviously have the local controllers, and they're fairly isolated from the Alta Cloud. We do plan on, merging them to some degree. It's definitely a point of confusion when users try to set up a local controller and they can't log in with their cloud login. We get it all the time. But yeah, those local controllers right now are essentially islands, right? They run all by themselves, and so they're not integrated with our cloud. As far as when we definitely want to integrate them in a good degree, right? So that it's seamless going back and forth between local controllers and cloud. But it's probably not going to be till at least Q3, maybe Q4. But we definitely do want to do that.
Awesome. Yeah, and this may or may not be clear, Luke. Maybe you know this already, but for the rest of our users, you can still access the control, the self-hosted version, as well as the appliance remotely, just not through our cloud. It just requires you to use our DDNS service. Let's see. Next question from Lucas Jenkins. Does internet-only network type require Route 10 to isolate devices from the LAN? That's a good question.
Yeah, great question. So Route 10 actually and internet only on the access points are fairly separate topics, right? So the filtering that happens on the access points with internet only is layer 2, and it is handled across access points across the network. So when you turn that on, the APs themselves will ensure that no traffic goes back and forth between a LAN device on the same VLAN. Now, I will say that if you have multiple VLANs, so let's say you have a second subnet that has on a different VLAN, by default, you will be able to communicate. So if you want to block traffic between, say, for example, your main VLAN and your second VLAN, you would need to have rules in place to block that traffic. And that's not just between Route 10. It's the same with any router vendor. So the access points can't do like a layer 3 filter, but they will do that layer 2 filtering. So you would need to add, if you have multiple VLANs, an extra filter to block that.
Perfect. Thanks, Jeff, and thanks, Lucas, for the great question. I also see that you asked about which carriers connect and offload through AltaBoost. I think we had that answered a little earlier in the questions or in the presentation of AltaBoost, but essentially it's pretty much all major US carriers except for Verizon, T-Mobile. We're working on those guys still. And we are, and on the international side, we have a number of international carriers that are also online as well. I would recommend that you refer or talk to our sales team, sales@alta.inc, to get the most up-to-date list, as that is obviously dynamic, right? It's a popular item. A lot of carriers are anxious to get online because it offloads congestion on their tower, provides a better user experience for their customers. So another question from YouTube Shukor. Thanks for being here. Are there any plans for small form factor 10 gigabit switches?
Yeah, so I mean, we do have the S12 switch that's slated to come out in July or so. And so that's it is rack mountable. I wouldn't say it's necessarily desktop, but it is half a U, right? So you can actually put 2 of these together in a 1U rack slot. And that gives you 12 SFP plus 10 gigabit ports. As far as a smaller form factor than that, we don't have plans to make one smaller than that, but hopefully that's small enough for most people's needs.
Yeah, that S12 fiber switch is already pretty small. I mean, for what you're getting in it. We'll have a data sheet that we release probably near the end of this month or early May to get an idea on the form factor. So thanks for the question. Next one, Newt, good to see you here. As always, thanks for being a loyal supporter of our all events here. Exciting news about enabling public WAN while behind CGNet. When do you anticipate releasing this update? Thanks again for having these all events.
So with third-party DDNS providers, it's already supported. All you have to do is add and configure the DDNS provider client, and then check that box for public IP. And it'll go ahead and look up the WAN IP address so that it's publicly routable for you.
Perfect. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Newt. Another question from VJ. Any updates on the link aggregation, please? I'd imagine that is maybe the S12.
I think that's the S12, yeah. So same thing. It's still slated for July timeframe for release. But yeah, really excited about that one. Definitely an important product that's closing some of those gaps that we have.
For sure. Yeah, and as a reminder, if you're new on the Alta Labs live events, we 2 or 3 instances of 2 or 3 months ago, we announced the S12. Again, small form factor, fits on a 1U. Or it can slide into 1U spot on the shelf, and you can actually gang 2 of them together and still only tie up 1 rack space. And it's 12 SFP plus ports. If you put 2 of them side by side, that obviously opens up to 24. So very excited about that. And VJ, if you're asking about something other than the S12, we'd love to. Please make sure you clarify for us. We'll get that answered. Another question from Haiku Rem. Why is every AP sending DNS requests in 1-second intervals using a local Alta control?
Yeah, so I've seen this on the forums. It's not something that we've been able to reproduce in our test labs. And, that usually is 99% of solving the problem, is being able to reproduce it locally. But we're happy to work with you with support to figure out how to reproduce it locally. And it's definitely not intended. I mean, obviously, that's crazy to send so much DNS traffic. The normal amount to send would be, I think our TTL on our ping.alta.inc is, let's see, 10 minutes or something like that. So, but then we do send pings every 30 seconds to make sure that the connection is alive and well on all the access points and switches.
Yep, thanks, Jeff. And thanks, Heiko. Love to have you engage with us on our community forum if you're not there already, or please email support@alta.inc. We'll get our support team to take a look at that. Our VP of Marketing kindly reminded me that we do have a full PoE enabled product that's coming. It's coming in June, July timeframe. It's our 48 port switch. All 48 ports will be PoE plus enabled, and the PoE budget will be 740 watts. So
yep,
it's glad we caught that. So thanks, Rob. Way to keep us honest, bud. Let's see, another good question. This comes up regularly privately. A lot of our events that we go to. When can we have Alta merch? I need a zip-up hoodie and coffee mug. I love it, Luke. We will work on that. We've got some for the team, but we've been trying to figure out ways to better approach our zip-up hoodie and coffee mug. As you know, we don't have an e-com platform that we can just go plug swag into. So we need to figure out how to get that brought to market in some way, shape, or form. But yeah, we'd love to do it. Appreciate the support, Luke. Next comment from Kevin Honan. Please make mounting new APs easier and supply screws that work with single gain electrical outlet boxes. I can touch on this a little bit, Jeff, and maybe keep me honest here too. So on the new, on the AP6 Pro and AP6, the mounting there, that is something we know that needs a little bit of work. There are some caveats here as far as ways to make sure it works easy for you. Number one is believe it or not, very commonly we see installers use a rounded screw head. And because the tolerances are so tight between the heat sink on the back of an access point here and the plastic mounting bracket, that rounded head will actually grab the Alta Labs logo, which keeps that from mounting. So make sure you're using a flat head or pan head screw. And then the other thing we're seeing is when you're going into a junction box, J box, right, whether it's high volt or low volt, you're using a screwdriver and you flex that mount, right, where it starts to deform a little bit and kind of causes it to be some abnormalities. And so the idea is, right, you want a snug fit, but not over tight. It needs to be flush with whatever surface you're on. And so if you make sure that's there, flathead screwdriver, generally the mount is easy to use, but we know that it could be substantially better as well. So what we are doing is with our Wi-Fi 7 AP, we're using that opportunity to not redesign, but just enhance the mount, right? Because we still want it to work with our AP6 and AP6 Pro. We're working with our mechanical team to make sure that those new mounts for the new APs will work better, and then we'll actually create a mount that we'll repurpose that mount and sell it with our AP6 and AP6 Pro. The last thing I want to mention on that, Kevin, too, is the screws that work with the single gain electrical boxes. Jeff and I actually, if you go back a number of years ago when we first started deciding what hardware to include with our access points, we went back and forth quite a bit on this, on what to include, what not to include. And what we ultimately came up with is, because of the thread patterns that exist globally, right, for junction boxes, it was better that we only include the hardware to mount the AP to drywall, right, including anchors and anchor screws, or to the T-grid, because we're able to provide all the hardware to get it on those specific surfaces. Rather than include a massive bag of hardware that hopefully hits all the thread patterns across all the junction boxes globally, we figure that most installers would have their kind of go-to screws for junction boxes. Me, for example, I go to Home Depot and they've got a massive kit with a bunch of different lengths that I love. I don't even pay attention to other manufacturers' screws. I use those because they're the flatheads. They give me a bunch of distances or lengths, excuse me, and allow my access points to mount to any box that I want. So if you're trying to use the little screws that are in the box already, that's for the T-grid mount as well as the drywall anchors. So that's why that's not fitting inside of your single gain electrical box. That was a long answer, but Jeff, anything you want to add to that?
No, I think that covers it. Yep, that's perfect.
Yeah, perfect. Let's see. A question from Jorgen. Any news on 10 gigabit in any form of switches? I have been to earlier live streams, so I haven't heard. Thanks. I think we got that one with the S12.
Yeah, and then, I mean, our S24 also has two 10 gigabit ports. Route 10 has two 10 gigabit ports. And then, yeah, our S48 is going to have 4 10 gigabit ports. So plenty of switches, previous and upcoming, that have 10 gigabit interfaces.
Perfect. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Jorgen. Next question from Russ L. Going to pester about OIDC and SAML for control login. While I understand these are groups and such available, those are not practical for any compliance requirements. Yeah, so great question, Russ. This has been on our roadmap for a while. It hasn't been prioritized to the top yet, but we do definitely want to support OpenID and SAML login to make it easier to integrate with your existing management platforms. But in the meantime, we do have the group feature, which works really well for smaller MSPs and things like that. So if you have any questions or any way that we can improve groups right now, we're definitely open to it. But yeah, it's definitely going to be a little bit of time before we support the OIDC and SAML. Perfect. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Russ, for being here and keeping up the questions on OIDC and SAML. Jordan, glad we got your questions answered. Ooh, this is a good one. Thanks, Al. I think that's Al, not AI. When DPI will arrive on Route 10, can we get also a schedule option to enable disable categories and apps? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've been working on it for a while already. We're doing some testing. We don't want to release it until it's fully baked. So, I mean, as far as schedule, hopefully by the end of the month. But yeah, hopefully it doesn't push much further beyond that. But yeah, it's really exciting. You can do DPI between all the VLANs, internet to LAN, obviously. And yeah, you'll definitely be able to filter certain sites and things like that. Yeah, so it's coming very soon. Yeah, I'm excited about that. Thanks for the question, Al. And thank you, Jeff. Next question comes from Newt. Let's see. Awesome. Can you also share more details about the Route 10's hardware, like the specific Qualcomm SoC used and RAM capacity, and how that influenced your design decisions for performance and features? Yeah, so it is a Qualcomm 9570 SoC running at, I think, 2.2 gigahertz. I'm trying to remember, but yeah, quad core. The cool thing about this processor is it has a network accelerator. It has actually a couple, one called PPE, one called SFE.
that's where the option comes into play, where you can actually choose which hardware accelerator you use. So it has multiple hardware accelerators. That's how it's able to handle 10 gigabits of traffic. And then, yeah, RAM capacity, it's 1 gigabyte. And we chose that, to be able to bring it to market with the lower cost. And then the form factor. What we really wanted this to be was something that obviously can handle 10 gigabits per second, but also covers everything in between. We see this being used in all sorts of sites, whether you have 10 megabits per second ISP connection or gigabit connection or 10 gigabit, right? We want it to be able to work in all those different environments. So yeah, I mean, it was a balance between cost and performance. And then, yeah, we have a great relationship with Qualcomm, so that we're able to use those advanced features with the hardware acceleration.
That's awesome. Thanks, Jeff. And thanks, Snoop, for the question. Good question. Landon is one of our marketing managers. There's a good chance he's using some sort of painkiller right now. He just had his tonsils removed. So thanks for being here, Landon.
He's got his tonsils out, right?
That's right. He his tonsils out. Russell, thank you. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, email us at sales@alta.inc. We'd love to hear what you got, for sure. Next question from Newt. And what will the port speeds be on the upcoming 48 port switch?
Yeah, so we have 32 gig speed ports, 16 2.5 gig ports, all copper. And then we have 4 SFP plus slots, and those are all at 10 gigabit speed.
Thanks for that too. Thanks, Newt. Lots of good comments about the online merch store. We got to figure that out apparently, and I like the idea of doing discounts for everybody that supports the OWL for sure. Armor, thank you for that. It's a good idea. Another question from Lucas. Another good question. Thank you. Can a second Route 10 be in shadow mode for redundancy?
So that's not a feature that we currently support. We definitely want to be able to support, high availability redundancy modes, but that's still a little ways out. And I mean, that coming back to Knut's question about the processor that we chose, it's a relatively new one from Qualcomm. It's going to be here to stay for many years and supported. And so that's why we kind of chose that, because we want something that's not necessarily going to be end of life anytime soon, right? And so, yeah, it's a power horse. It can handle a lot of traffic. We know that it's capable of doing some of these more advanced features like redundancy and things like that with the correct software on it. But yeah, it's just going to take some time to get that.
Agreed. Yeah, I know that it's come up on a couple of our live stream events. Chris has mentioned he wants to get that done this year too. So thank you, Jeff and Lucas, for the questions. All right, that looks like we are pretty much cut up on all of our questions. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We appreciate your time and support. We do host these monthly. If you would like to, if you missed this, right, and catching this after the fact, the best way to stay up to date on all of the Alta news and our live stream events is to make sure you're subscribed to our newsletter. You can do that by just jumping over to our website, alta.inc. Before we sign off, Jeff, is there anything else that you would like to touch on or talk about?
No, just go enable AltaBoost right now. It's really cool. It works. And your friends will love you for it. So yeah, if you have any spotty warehouses, businesses, anything where you're indoors, there's a lot of concrete and walls and metal walls and things like that. Yeah, it makes a huge difference. And we've seen that some of the carriers will prefer the AltaBoost connection over, for example, like Wi-Fi calling. I mean, a lot of this depends on the carriers, and some of them have their preferences. But yeah, you should try it out. It's awesome. It's by far the easiest way to try out Passpoint. It does open roaming. Yeah, so go ahead and turn it on.
Yeah, we'd love it. Love you to turn it on. We'd love to hear your feedback. Come provide it over at forum.alta.inc. And again, thank you everyone for taking the time to be here. We appreciate all your support, and we look forward to the next Alta Labs live event in May. Until then, take care.
Thank you.